Welcome to Daily Success. Listen in on these personal conversations with today's leaders, innovators, and influencers as they discuss daily success principles, systems, and solutions. Get ready for Daily Success. Now, here's your host.
Hi, this is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Inthirani Arul. She is the founder of SoulPath Inc. and an author and award-winning Dale Carnegie graduate. Through struggle, numerous losses, and experiences, she pursued a journey to empower herself through self-discovery. Her mission is to bring compassion and quality care into the lives of those she serves. Inthirani believes that every person matters, and when we elevate and grow ourselves, we can live a fulfilled life and have the potential to leave an impact and imprint that can create an outcome in the life of humanity. Welcome, Inthirani. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much once again for inviting me back, Tammy.
Well, we've had some really great conversations previously, and every time we talk, new ideas come up, and I just think that one of the things, we live in a world today where it's so hard to be confident because we're literally being told that maybe we're not good enough, maybe we should try to do better, maybe we've been bullied, and even things that people said to us when we were small children sometimes come back to us as adults, and sometimes we don't even realize that a lot of the things that we react to have nothing to do with today or this moment in time, but maybe something, a learned behavior or a habit, or maybe something that happened to us that we don't even remember. But let's build on that idea of confidence. And I know that you are an author and you have several books and you're an award-winning Dale Carnegie graduate. So you have quite an extensive background about building confidence. So tell me more. First of all, tell me more about why confidence is so important today.
Well, I believe confidence is so important because everywhere we go, it's about building relationships. It's about communicating with people and interacting with others. And it's also about how do we feel about ourselves. It's that inner strength that exists within us. And it's, many times we lose that understanding that that it does exist within us. And because of the environment we grew up in and our interactions and our experiences, many times we get lost and we lose that confidence that we had when we came on this planet. In this world, as children, we are quite confident, and I have this understanding, and I know that it's through those interactions that I really, and the experiences of fear and uncertainty that really led me to have that better understanding of how, that confidence is something that exists within.
It's interesting because as you were talking, you talked about self-worth or self-esteem, and obviously that is something you talked about, how when we're children, we often have this confidence. I mean, if you think about a 2-year-old or even a 1-year-old, they're learning to walk and they have that, they fall down, they get up, they fall down, they get up, and they have the confidence that I'm going to walk or I'm going to crawl or I'm going to sit up. And then they get a little older and it's no, because they're testing those boundaries and they have the confidence to go out. And you talk about it being something that we are born with, yet we sometimes lose it due to our environment or to things that happen to us. So thinking about that, how can we step back into gaining confidence, gaining this self-esteem if we've lost it? Say that we just feel hopeless. Do you have any tips that you could give somebody, like they could start today in building that confidence back up?
Well, when I was younger, one of the things that I learned is to really to find ways where I could engage with other people. Because of the environment I lived in, I lived with a mother who suffered from mental health and issues and was also blind. And most of my life was around living in that environment. But when I went to school, I was teased a lot, by other kids for my appearance because I was a little bit chubby, and I also had one of my eyes had this vision impairment. It was very noticeable when I was younger, and so I was teased a lot, and I really I went inwards, and to overcome that, I discovered that it was getting out there, meeting people. And I believe that's the best way to overcome it. I started doing volunteer work, and I volunteered in the Vancouver General Hospital, which is, the hospital in our local city. And I just worked, I volunteered with the elderly people in the long-term care wards. And it was just making that effort. And I remember I would go onto the bus and I'd be going to volunteer, and my heart would race. It would just like ba-boom, 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 when I see people, because I was just terrified of people, So I just pushed myself, and I just kept going every time. And I really loved it because I got to meet new people, and I got to learn their life experiences, and I learned how they also went through struggles, and they also had experiences, and they had so much knowledge and wisdom that I learned from, and just to interact with them, and just when you give of yourself and you help another person, I believe that is one of the greatest ways to gain that confidence.
So it's interesting because you're talking about how you decided to go volunteer in order to meet people, yet on the way to volunteer, you were terrified. Your heart's like beating out of your throat. So when you volunteered, let's say that you were riding the bus to go to this volunteer, did you ever talk to the people along the way on the bus, or was most of your interactions with the people once you got there? Because I know I don't live in an area where there's a lot of mass transit, but for example, I went on a vacation to New York, and I was sitting on the subway, and there was a little girl sitting next to me, and it was obvious that she had just had her hair done and her nails, and she looked really cute. And so I said, "Hey, I really like your hair and your nails." And she kind of looked at me "You're talking to me?" Was that difficult to create conversations, or because of the volunteer situation, did that make it easy? And if you are trying to break the ice to talk with people, what do you suggest the easiest thing to do to start a conversation so that you can start to gain this confidence?
So one of the ways that, I believe to start a conversation is by just saying hi to someone. For my situation, I was uncomfortable speaking to people on the bus personally. It was once I got into the setting that's where I knew I was here as a volunteer. This is, my role. and that's where I built my comfort at first, and communicating with the people there. And so the way I conversed with them is like, I would observe first of all, and I would see, who may need some assistance. And then I would approach them and I'd ask them, well, I'd first introduce myself and I'd ask them how they are and just create conversation like, what's your name? And what do you like doing? And is there anything I can do to help you in this, at this moment? Do you want, and then they just automatically start opening up and sharing their story, their life story. And, it was just through that conversation that it just kept on building. Yeah.
So I think you're right. So you say hello, and then of course you have a very unique name, Inthirani. So, and I know that we had a whole conversation around your name because I had to learn how to say it, and you gave me a way to remember how to say your name, and so that was, that helped me, but it also made me feel comfortable because you knew that I was trying to learn how to say your name correctly. And so you obviously have a lot of experience with that in helping people. So you ask somebody their name. Everybody loves the sound of their own name. And then you ask them if there's anything that you can do to help them. And so, of course, if some people might say no, but maybe there is. I mean, again, in a hospital situation, it could be like, I know, for example, every time I've been in the hospital, I need an extra blanket because I'm always too cold. So, it could be as simple as, oh, yes, could you bring me a blanket? Or maybe they need the pillow fluffed. Or maybe they just need somebody just to sit there and be there because they're alone. There's so many different ways that we can help people. And then again, the gift, you're giving, yet you receive the gift. You build your confidence up. And again, I think that's so important because everybody needs to have that sense that they belong and that they're part of this bigger world. And of course, there's the spiritual side of this. So as somebody who's has a lot of experience as a caregiver, you basically have been a caregiver your entire life. I mean, from a small child, and to deal with a situation where somebody needed you because they were blind. I mean, that's quite a responsibility for a young girl. So, and even today you're working with people in a caregiving scenario. So as a caregiver, what is your message for other caregivers to help them to develop the skills that actually it's a combination of compassion mixed with the self-esteem that leads to this confidence that actually makes you a better caregiver? So do you see, if you were talking to another caregiver, what would you say some of the top things they could be doing that could open up these doors that help not only the person they're giving care to, but to help them to be a better caregiver and to support that spiritual side of them? So the self that of both people, I guess, involved, or all people involved.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I learned was the greatest lesson or greatest thing that I've always had with me, and it is to know that it's about us, knowing what my strengths are, what are my weaknesses, is to identify that within my own self, and it's to really look at how can I be a better caregiver? How can I be that better person? In order for me to help other people, it's about helping myself first. And that was the biggest thing that I can share with you. That is one of the biggest things, because because I knew I was nervous, I had fear around, people, and it was actually written on my very first evaluation when I started working for the Community Living Society. It was written that I needed to communicate more because I was very shy and nervous around people. And this was like back in 30 years ago. So and I came to that realization, it's like, if I'm going to help other people, I have to first help myself. How can I possibly help another person if I can't even help myself? And so that's when my journey of going out there and really seeking opportunities for speaking and for improving myself began. And so that's where I strongly suggest that a person starts is with themselves.
So you're an award-winning Dale Carnegie graduate. So with Dale Carnegie, was that one of the first things you did that was part of that awakening to help yourself to become better? Can you tell me a little bit more about the Dale Carnegie program, just so that the audience can understand what the value is?
So, yes, absolutely. It was actually a referral to me, either go to Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie. And so I did end up going to Dale Carnegie, which is a public speaking and human relations training program that I participated in. And it's a wonderful program where you have many opportunities over a period of, at that time, it was 13 weeks. And every week you'd come in and do 2 speeches. One's an impromptu speech and one is a prepared speech. And so you'd go in and you would do your speech each time when it was your turn. And I remember the very first time I went in, I stood there and I started speaking and I froze. I literally froze. I couldn't remember anything. And I just wanted to run out the back door, but I said, no, you're going to stay. You're going to get through this, And I continued coming back as hard as it was. I continued coming back. The second time I went up there, I started a little bit. I was able to say a bit more and, and then I'd forget everything again. But it's that persistency and, just keep on practicing. And I practice so hard every day. And yeah, so it's about just never giving up, and it was a wonderful environment because everyone was supportive and they always supported you every time, clap their hands and, regardless of whether you were able to complete your speech or not, So it was incredible. The environment was just incredible. And then the various experiences that we had with the different exercises that we verbally practice, articulated or spoke in our speeches. There's demonstration, there was crashing through, so you just do something that's just very high energy. And, and there was so many different types of speeches that you could do. And so it was just the consistency and just the perseverance and just do it. Just don't give up. That's all I can say.
Well, yeah. I think what you're describing, like Dale Carnegie and Toastmasters, or getting up in front of groups of people and learning how to speak, both of them I think are very valuable because everyone no matter if you're a student or, somebody in business or the workplace, we all have to learn how to communicate. And it may be one-to-one communication, it might be one-to-many communication, or it could even be in writing communication. But when you're able to walk into a room and walk up to anybody and start a conversation, and of course not only be able to converse, but also to listen to somebody else. And I think that's probably one of your great attributes, is probably the fact that you are such a good listener. That's why people want to open up to you, because they feel heard. And I think that, again, if you look at, not only is confidence about self-confidence, but it's that confidence that you help to instill in other people, that trust, because you're actually, when you're confident, you actually are empowering other people to be able to speak up and to talk about who they are. And then it's like a ripple effect. You walk in confident, they get confident, and then all the interactions help to create this positive environment of where people can talk and disagree or agree, but all have this stability of being, confident that they are whoever they are and that they can share themselves with other people.
Absolutely.
So you also work with something called the Trivedi effect, and we've talked about that in the past, the energy of helping people to connect to the God of their understanding. How does that connection to the divine, in your opinion, work with confidence? How does that help you gain confidence, or that self-esteem, that self-worth that we've been talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, definitely. This energy, it helps open you up even more. It helps expand you even more. When I started receiving these energy transmissions, I was, I had just lost my husband and my mother, and as I mentioned in my last interview, and and I believe in life we go through ups and downs. Things will happen, and sometimes you may go back to where you may kind of fall back a little bit, but this energy, it has kept me moving forward. It's helped open me up. It's helped me speak more effectively and more. I'm more focused now, and this energy will definitely boost that certainty within you and make you. It's that. It's this, I don't know, this love that comes from within you, and that I can't even describe it. It's like, I'm so happy now. It's this inner strength, this inner feeling of joy, and that it doesn't matter, whatever happens may happen, and it doesn't affect me like it used to anymore. Where I used to kind of get kind of sad, or I'll be scared, but this energy just kind of keeps me constant and moving forward and just peaceful and calmer. And it just, I mean, I've just recently lost my father, and I don't know. I went to work. I continued going to work. I completed all the assignments that I have had to accomplish. And I just kept doing and kept moving forward. And I feel at peace and calm. So, and I believe that this energy will definitely connect you to that to that calmness and that peace and that confidence that exists within you.
I think that's the key, that what you just said. When you're connected to the God of your understanding, there is a calmness, a certainty, a peace that you just can't describe. It is difficult to describe it, yet it exists because, I mean, I've met thousands of people now, or read about thousands of people, and they're all describing this. When you're connected, there's this feeling of peace and harmony and that confidence that you're talking about, because I think that's really important, because sometimes there's these words that, we think we know what they mean, but how do we feel them? How do we know? Because everybody wants to know, well, how do I know if I'm confident? Obviously, when you're able to walk into a room and you're not shaking and shivering and your teeth are not chattering, then you've passed some threshold of having confidence. But even people who appear to be extremely confident, most of the time they will say, well, for example, right before I walk onto the stage or before this happens, I still get butterflies. Mm-hmm. And I still have this, this little bit of energy about, I'm a little bit nervous, but then they step into it and it's like a light switch goes off and they're like on, just like a light switch, which is very interesting. So you actually work with people and help them to connect to this energy. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with people with the energy? And I know that you really like to work with other caregivers because you have that experience, so you can really empathize with them and what they're going through on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Whenever I hear of someone not feeling well or struggling with something, I do send out that energy to them, just so that, I believe when you can empower those around you in your own environment and you're working amongst them, I know this energy is also a ripple effect. It just automatically ripples because of the environments I'm in. And because when we help boost another person, and it creates that environment of cohesion where everyone's working at their greatest potential. You want to create that kind of environment wherever you are, and it's just to really empower every person, even the people that I care for. Like when I hear the person that I'm supporting or caring for may have had some kind of fracture or something, or some kind of physical ailment or some kind of stress in their life, I will use this energy to support them while I'm caring for them.
You mentioned that your father passed away. Do you have any anecdotes or stories about maybe how the energy may have worked with him during that time? I imagine high time of high stress, and how that helped you handle it?
Yeah, it was very challenging because it's my father, and to see him getting his health declining was difficult to watch. But definitely, like I would definitely give him these energy transmissions as, as I was caring for him, and just spending that time around, being with him, and doing as much as I could for him. And just before he passed away, after he had his heart attack, my father had a heart attack, and it was that at that time I called Guruji, actually, because he's the first person I could think of, the only person that I could think of, and that could really help my father, and because I wanted my father to have the greatest peace, or whatever he needed in his last moments of his days. And so, and Guruji, immediately he called me. I had left a message on the office phone, and he called me, and he said, don't worry, I'm looking after everything, and I will even send you an energy transmission as well. And you can call me anytime, he said. It was just the greatest feeling to have his blessing in our life. And I tell you, it was just, it was just a very peaceful last few moments when my father passed. And when his eyes just literally, like when the doctors came over to us, we were there. It was the day after Father's Day that my father passed, and the doctors said, he just had a cardiac arrest, and they couldn't really do much in that moment. And so they said, they just came over and told us to just say our last respects. And as we were giving our gratitude and all that to my father, he, his eyes just literally rolled back, and he just he left this, his soul left the world, because without the soul, the physical body was not functioning any longer. And it was just the most calmest, peaceful experience I've ever had. I never experienced anything like that when my father left. It was truly a blessing what my father left with me. It was such a gift. Having his presence in my life all the years that he gifted my life with all the experiences and everything. Yeah.
That's really beautiful, because again, the description of, the peacefulness and the gift that you had because you were there and you witnessed his spirit leaving. So, and you had a chance to say goodbye too. So you had that closure and everything. And I know it sounds like we got off our track on confidence, but not really, because that energy and everything that you've done in your life has helped you to develop this self-esteem, this confidence, this caring. And of course, as you go out into the world and you're helping people every single day with confidence, and you're working with them, and then now you're working with people, and you have the gift of being able to help people connect to the energy and the God of their understanding, and you have this understanding of the peace and the calm. It just makes you like a better conduit for that energy to help come through you to help other people connect. So that actually helps to create confidence. That's how I see it. Because confidence, again, it's one of those words that it has so many layers of meaning to it. And sometimes we don't really dig deep enough to really understand confidence. And it's kind of funny because I actually do a special show called Daily Word of the Day. And I'm thinking, even though I didn't intend for this interview to be a daily word of the day, it is. So confidence is, I can now share this on my Daily Word of the Day show, even though the interview didn't start out to be like that. But hey, what a gift is that for me and for you. So if people want to reach out to you, Inthirani, what is the best way to do that? I know you've got a beautiful website they can visit, and they can get all the information there. So can you share that information with us?
Yes. So the website address is inthirani.com. Yeah. And
could you spell your name, even though it'll be in writing? If you could spell that would be great.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. So it's INTHIRANI.com, COM.
Great. And again, your name is such to me, it's unusual. I don't know, maybe it's not an unusual name, but how many Inthiranis do you run into?
Not very many.
You're the first. But I really enjoyed our conversation today. So again, I know we touched on a lot of different areas, but again, if you look at it, every single path we took all came back to self-esteem, self-worth, and of course, confidence. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here, Tammy.
Thank you. Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to Daily Success. Tune in again and subscribe. Never miss a moment of daily success.